an epic tale of a virtue signal fail. That's what I have for you here today on this wonderful morning, Saturday, June 13th. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get right into it, of course, after some coffee. I'll see you in about 10 seconds. Welcome back. So this situation is a complicated one. On top of being complicated already, it occurred obviously overseas in Japan. So I'm doing my best to get accurate coverage on this, but bear with me. Translations and all that sort of stuff makes it complicated even further. But here is the gist of the story, and then I'm going to show you articles, tweets, all the supportive information. What you're looking at on screen here is from a 1 minute and 21 second clip that NHK ran. You don't know NHK, Japan's national broadcasting organization. So they run this clip, which by the way, I transcribed fully. So I will show you what this clip said. I won't play the clip because copyright, you know how that is. But they run this clip, they start getting a lot of backlash. Now, certain Western media like CNN has picked this story up and they're framing the backlash in a certain way. But from what I'm seeing, Japanese people didn't like this for another reason, for the most part. Everyone has different opinions, of course, but largely, it seems like a lot of people in Japan just didn't like this random virtue signal. The framing from Western news right now, though, is that Japan took umbrage because it didn't accurately explain the issues going on in the West. Apparently, even a U.S. ambassador had got involved with this. Now, the tricky thing about that is there are complaints from Westerners now, especially on Twitter, Westerners complaining about this ad for the reasons that CNN outlined. They're saying it wasn't accurate enough and it was too stereotypical, all this sort of stuff. Basically, the virtue signal is getting virtue signaled at. How do you think Japan's going to feel where they try to do something good for Westerners and the Westerners basically slap them in the face and it doesn't even go well for people in Japan either? I have a feeling that they're probably not going to do this again. Okay, here is the transcription. Keep in mind, they had these various animated characters speaking these lines throughout this 1 minute, 21 second video. Here it is. The background behind our anger is the difference between us. Blacks and whites poverty gap. Yeah, the average white person has 7 times more assets than black people. And furthermore, now we have, this part I redacted, here's the paraphrasing. Now we have the medical issue sweeping the world, and the most people who were affected was us, the black people. Hey, I have one question. How many black people lost their jobs in America or had their hours cut? That is then asked to a parody of the Statue of Liberty, says 45%. Then this frustration sparked everyone everywhere. And that's the clip. Now let's take a look at CNN's coverage. I'm not really a fan of CNN, and that's putting it lightly. Right away, the fact that they had apparently 3+ people working on this one article is highly embarrassing to me. This article is extremely short. That's the whole article. And apparently that required like 3+ different people working on it. Anyways, I highlighted the important things, the things that we'll talk about. So they say, Japan's public broadcaster has taken down an anime video. Right away, that's not even really true. I mean, I get what they're saying, but it shows a lack of understanding on their end to just call it an anime video. I mean, you want to talk about racism and you're just going to blatantly call it an anime video and that's it? I mean, oh my gosh, CNN. Japan's public broadcaster has taken down an anime video explaining the Black Lives Matter movement after receiving criticism. The video was offensive and failed to explain the complex racial issues accurately. That's not actually very accurate to the criticism, though, because, as I said, they aren't framing it. They are framing it only in this direction. They're not reporting on the backlash, which was just people not wanting this shoved in their face. They go on the right. He explained that the underlying causes of the unrest included a growing wealth gap between white and black Americans, higher job loss among the black community due to what I mentioned earlier, the redacted thing. However, it did not mention what happened to Mr. Floyd, rest in peace, or police brutality in the U.S. Public broadcaster NHK posted the video on Twitter on Sunday, but has since deleted it after receiving heavy criticism online. Joseph M. Young, the charge d'affaires ad interim of the U.S. Embassy in Tokyo, said Tuesday that the anime was offensive and insensitive. The anime, CNN, the anime, it's not an anime, it's a little animated clip they ran. CNN, You're just stereotyping this stuff by, oh my gosh, what are they thinking? This is why I don't even want to read this whole article. We're just looking at the highlighted stuff. This is just so cringe. Naomi Osaka, a Japanese professional tennis player, also responded to the NHK post with a popular gif of Family Feud host Steve Harvey expressing bewilderment. You can see CNN's trying to bolster their argument here that, oh yes, Japanese people are also mad because this didn't properly talk about it. They're trying to make it seem like the Japanese people absolutely love this Western virtue signaling stuff. Oh my gosh. They finally say other people on Twitter have also responded to NHK's tweet by calling it a shame and for spreading misinformation about the unrest. And that's mostly Westerners. Which I'll show you more of now. For example, this tweet with 207 retweets, 395 likes. I'm going to paraphrase this one. Basically, I mean, if you're not audio only, you can read it on screen. It's right here. But basically, this person is saying that the virtue signal failed. They at NHK. They are outraged. They say it's unacceptable. They say that basically the clip was in of itself racist. And as I said earlier on in the video, guys, how do you think this is going to go for Japan? Do you think when they try something like this and it fails so badly and they get backlash from Westerners who they were trying to, appeal to, I suppose, do you think they're going to do this sort of thing again? I don't think so. I mean, this went so terribly. They have backlash now from Japan, backlash from the States. They have Western media picking this up and spinning it. I just can't imagine Japan's ever going to want to virtue signal like this again. I mean, this blew up in their face on every front, basically. Now, here's where things get really freaky, and I'm going to try to explain this as accurately as I can. Again, translations and all of that, it gets complicated. Please bear with me. This is freaky because there is an overt activist website in Japanese that covered this topic and is framing it just like CNN is, except they actually went even more radical than CNN. This website says something blatantly, just completely disrespectful to Japanese people. Let me show you. Surima on Twitter was generous enough to translate the article, although it seems like something may have happened because they say that they have no interest retranslating it back to English. So I don't know what happened with the first translation that they did. They also say, but someone who helped in the translation uploaded a little pic of the original English text of it. I think that is enough to know what the heck this article is. Take a look at this segment from the article. I'm sorry it's cut off a bit. This is a really big picture. I'll just scroll it as we read. It says, what you're seeing is America's karma. You know what? I don't even want to read this with my... Dude, I don't even want to read this with my with my face on there, to be honest. Here's what it says. What you're seeing is America's karma. It's way overdue comeuppance. And if you can't see this, if you can't feel the righteousness of this in your heart, Japan, then you better get your heart checked out. You might have gone RIP years ago and not even know it. Surima also provided this picture of the article. What we read was from this article, and I'll show you the article in a moment as well. And apparently you also have this person, Minty, talking about it. Full disclaimer, I have no idea what Minty is saying. Don't know if that's good or bad. Absolutely no idea. But take a look at this. This is the article, and it actually has 5 pages. 5 pages. And let me show you the author now. Allegedly, this dude, Bay McNeil. From his own website, I assume, because it's baymcneil.com, it says, Bay McNeil is the author of 2 books on life in Japan. He is also a columnist of the Japan Times. His activist work in Japan against certain societal issues. Let's stop at that. And I'm redacting some things because I don't want to run into trouble with this video. These are hot topics that I generally try to avoid, but I think you can understand very easily why I'm covering this one. Right there, though, says he's an activist. That news site is an activist site, I presume, as well. I don't know if he owns the site or if he's just an author. I don't know, to be fair. I'm making some assumptions here, but I don't think the assumptions are too far-fetched when you see the way that article frames the situation, manipulates the narrative, and the author is allegedly an activist himself. I mean, you add it up, man. What's 2 plus 2, right? I'm going to cut this one there, guys, and wrap it up a little early, just to let you know. Originally, this video was going to go on a bit longer, taking a look at some more of the crazy rants from Westerners on Twitter about this subject, but I'm actually going to cover that in a separate video. I think it is good enough to be its own standalone video. Plus, what we just discussed at the end of this one is so important that I don't want to take away from that. So, if you would, please consider leaving your thoughts in the comments below on this topic. I will be happy to take a look this morning and see what people are talking about on this one. I think it's a very interesting topic. I hope you all do as well. I hope you have a great rest of the morning or whatever time of the day it is. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And a big thanks to the kind people who promoted yesterday's morning segment over on Twitter. Shouts out to Shon M, Amazing Ronin, Jocelyn, John, Ice Cream is Just an Illusion, Faunus R, Baku Girl, KJC, Florida Fool, Shield Warrior. We got Ale, DXDKJ, Dinosaur King, Intimidator 0108, Hunter H, Amethyst T, and this one's funny, Problematic Lolly. Yeah, well, thank you all. Look forward to seeing you next time.